I'm going to tell you why you should choose to do Memories We Lost as the optional set text in KCSE, and how that will help you to achieve a higher score as opposed to any other choice. Before we do that, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and also sharing this video with friends that may find it helpful. So we have already tested 3 out of 14 stories in Memories We Lost, and that means we still have 11 more. Those 3 stories are Almost Home by Barry McKinley from Ireland. We have also tested The President, and most recently we did Hitting Budapest by No Violet Bulawayo from Zimbabwe. So we have 11 more stories to go, and I'm going to talk about the 11 stories and the issues that you can expect from the 11 stories. From Almost Home, we tested the dangers or the futility of illegal immigration. In The President, we tested about the effects, essentially or ideally the negative effects of war. And then in Hitting Budapest, we tested a question on how children, basically the challenges that children growing up in slums or urban slums go through. And so we're going to look at the other 11 questions and see what to expect in those 11 questions. Keep watching, and I'll give you the reason why you should actually opt for the short stories as your optional choice. So the first story is Memories We Lost, which I'm going to talk about elaborately, and then I'll just mention the issues in the other stories, or the issues we can expect from the other stories. Memories We Lost has 2 main issues. One, the challenges that are experienced by the sick in our society, because one of the main characters is going through schizophrenia, which is a mental illness, a chronic mental illness that has no cure. So she goes through so many challenges, and those around her also are affected in one way or the other. And then the second issue in the story Memories We Lost by Lidundu Malingani Mukombothi is caring for the sick. So the virtue of taking time to take good care of people who are going through certain challenges like mental illness. So you have to actually read the text and look out for the challenges. Episodes that show the challenges that the sick person goes through. For example, the fact that she injures herself, she injures other people, she cannot sleep, her education is interrupted, there is ignorance, and so even in trying to help her, her loved ones, like the mother, causes her more problems by taking her to the churches, giving her an arsenal of medication, and calling the sangomas to pray for her and do all sorts of rituals. Yeah, those are some of the challenges. But on the flip side, we also have caring for the sick. What can we do in order to show that we care for these people, or for our relatives and friends who are suffering, and what can we do in order to make their lives more bearable? For instance, the sister to this schizophrenic girl does a lot just to help make her sister's life bearable. For example, she drops out of school, or she goes truant for a short time just to help the sister. She says, I want to be in the same class with you. Sometimes she even tries to help the sister avoid going through the pain or injuring herself. You remember when she was hitting the head on the mud wall, and the sister tried to grab her and even lay her body on the patient's body so that she cannot injure herself. Sometimes she even protects her by not telling her the truth. You remember the incident where the sick girl throws a hot porridge and it scalds her chest, it burns her chest. But when the sick girl regained consciousness, the sister who was hurt didn't tell her that, hey, you actually burnt me, because she knew that it would actually devastate her. She would be devastated. So instead she says, no problem, my sister, I accidentally poured hot water on myself, just to protect the sister, and many others that we shall discuss in these and other videos. So if you're told to mention the challenges, these are some of the challenges the sick girl goes through: the loss of speech, the loss of memory or consciousness and reality, running away from home, the injury she causes herself and others, interruption of education, the treatment which was ineffective, the rituals which were also not helpful, the ignorance, they referred to it as a thing. They thought it was demons, they thought it was the work of the devil, and therefore they couldn't get the right solution. The family separation. The father to the two girls was also suffering, or is also suffering from schizophrenia, and he just went away, and so the family is now separated, and the mother has brought in somebody else called Smellyfoot, their stepfather, to stay with them. And then there is a sangoma called Nkuzi that uses cruel or callous ways of trying to heal the disease, and it causes more harm than good. All right. So make sure you give adequate textual illustrations when answering that question, and also giving some background information from the various episodes. Stories like how much land does man need? How much land does man need talks about, it's written by Leo Tolstoy, and talks about the corrupting nature of greed, the suffering that people go through when they lack contentment. We see how Pahom really suffers because of lack of contentment or greed. Then the next story is Light. Light talks about distant parenting, where there is separation between parents for one reason or another, and the fact that children or teenagers, especially girls, will have a difficult time growing up when the mother is away from them. And then the next story is Folded Leaf. Folded Leaf talks about the hypocrisy in religion, especially as regards to monetary gain. Some unscrupulous preachers take advantage of gullible Christians in order to enrich themselves, and in this case we are thinking about Pastor Adijola Fayemi. And also the story talks about the importance of self-acceptance and the joy and fulfillment we get when we accept ourselves the way we are, instead of seeking fake miracles from unscrupulous preachers. The next story is Window Seat. Window Seat talks about the challenges of urbanization in developing African countries, and especially transport and infrastructure, although other challenges like noise and theft and overloading, pollution, are also mentioned by Branoff. Then the next story is My Father's Head, which talks about grief or loss, because the main character lost the father, and it talks about, it just goes on and on about how she copes with the grief, and the father keeps appearing to her, and talks about appearance versus character. Sometimes we focus so much on a person's appearance and we forget about their character. The next story is No Need to Lie. No Need to Lie talks about the plight of cancer patient, the challenges they go through, and also the fact that we can beat cancer, or beating cancer, and the only way we can do that is having strong will and optimism to beat the challenges, or overcome the challenges that are bound to weigh us down if we have or are suffering from cancer, or basically any other problem or situation. The next story is Umbrella Man. Umbrella Man is all about the need for hope in the face of adversity. So it's also set in an asylum, and this is probably a mentally ill person, patient number 7, but he stays hopeful and optimistic until the day he is eventually released from the facility. The next story is The Handsomest Drowned Man. The handsomest drowned man simply talks about transformation or change, the transformative power of outstanding or powerful individuals. Esteban was a mythical figure with a larger-than-life physical presence. Even in his death, he was still influential, and therefore, even without telling the villagers that they needed to change, they decided, after throwing him back into the sea, or throwing his body back into the sea, that they needed to actually transform their lives from the banal and from the boring and uneventful, narrow-minded lifestyles to larger doors, bigger dreams, colorful courtyards, and working harder than they actually did in order to improve their lives. So I think it's a really relevant story as well, that talks about the transformational change. The village changes or transforms after they stumble upon a floating corpse that influences the way they think. Then the next story is Missing Out. Missing Out talks about alienation, and also missing out on opportunities when we are stuck on our conservative nature. If we just remain so conservative and do not look around and embrace the changes that come with interaction with other cultures, then we may miss out. But also, when we interact with other cultures, we may forget our own and therefore be alienated. So it's an interesting story about Majdi and Samra. One becomes alienated and the other one misses out on opportunities presented in the world. The last story is Stones Bounce on Water. We talked about it in one of our videos. You can check it out in the link I'm going to provide above. And then I'll also leave the link in the description. It talks about betrayal and mistrust, and especially the futility of betrayal. We gain nothing when we betray others. Chelsea, Tim, Peter, Paul, the Paulsons, that is Joe and Meg, do not gain or profit anything even after they conspire. We suspect that they conspired to kill Winnie. Winnie is dead. They want to inherit maybe the properties, the money, the gala, and the board, the charity that she runs. But eventually all of them do not profit from her death. So relationships that are based on mistrust and betrayal are bound to fail, and we don't gain anything. So as you read those stories, think along those issues, and make sure to get the details from the book that can help you to respond to the KCSE essay questions. If you like this video, consider subscribing. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments section. You can check out more of my stuff on wekati.blogspot.com for paper 3 material, and darasabora.blogspot.com for paper 1 material. Also, you'll find me on social media, link up on social media, so that we can continue learning from one another. Thank you.